Of 17 rallies over the next couple of days. We have Joe Biden going to areas that Hillary Clinton ignored in 2016, trying to avoid those mistakes. It's Friday, the election's Tuesday, and I still feel like anything can happen between now and then.
Yeah, I think certainly if 2016 taught us anything, it's that we don't know exactly what the result is going to be until it's over. And, you know, President Trump doing an enormous amount of rallies in the last few weeks isn't anything new. One of the reasons that he probably carried the day in 2016 is because he out-hustled Hillary Clinton in states like Michigan, especially in the last few weeks. But with that being said, you know, the polls look really good for Biden in a lot of states that he needs to win and a lot of states that he doesn't need to win. So if I were on his campaign, I'd be feeling pretty good right now.
Let's talk about the early vote, because early voting is not necessarily new this year. We've seen it roll incrementally in states across the last few years, but with the pandemic thrown into the mix, we have seen massive turnouts at polling places across the country. We've seen here in D.C., we've seen lines at polling places in a place where, let's be honest, it's not going to sway anything. But when you look at places like Texas, where you have an early vote count that just about exceeds what we saw 4 years ago, what messages should we construe from that early turnout?
Well, it's a little difficult to tell because there's really high enthusiasm on both sides. You know, one poll or number that's talked about a lot is the fact that President Trump's voters are much more enthusiastic to vote for Trump than Biden's voters are to vote for Biden. But what that misses is that Biden's voters are really enthusiastic to vote against Trump. So you're going to see massive turnout, I think, on both the Republican and the Democratic side. And there's a myth that I think both Republicans and Democrats subscribe to it to a certain extent, that high turnout favors Democrats. But if you actually look at the political science literature, there's no evidence that high turnout favors one side over the other. So that's actually one number that I would say we don't totally know what to make of it yet, except for the fact that there's enormously high voter enthusiasm. And this is going to be, as you pointed out, an election with really high numbers across the board for both candidates.
So in 1992, the message for the Clinton campaign was essentially, it's the economy, stupid. And that propelled him to a victory over George H.W. Bush. 4 years ago, the jobs message, both candidates were talking about jobs, but I think President Trump's message, which was, I'm going to bring back a lot of these jobs that were lost due to trade deals, whatever, what you may have, that resonated. It seems like right now Joe Biden is hitting the drum of the pandemic and how it was, as he believes, to be mishandled by this administration. The Republicans seem to be playing the Hunter Biden card. They think that that is a winning message. What do you think will win the day when it comes to people when they're trying to decide? And again, I doubt that there are many people out there who are undecided. And if you are undecided, tweet me and tell me that. But what do you think is going to be the message that motivates voters, people who are going to the polls on Tuesday?
Well, look, you know, I don't think that much has actually changed with the average American voter since the 90s. Obviously, the pandemic is a huge deal. But even in the context of the pandemic, what we're really talking about is jobs, is the economy, is people's ability to provide for their families, to make a decent living, to live lives of dignity. And, you know, a lot of the culture war issues, and especially, you know, on the right, a lot of the sort of Hunter Biden stuff, these are really fixations of the political class. You know, they're fixations of people like me, who are in media.
We don't think that it's really going to change votes there, but I guess the hope is you plant those seeds of doubt and maybe it grows into something. That's at least what my takeaway is from people who are beating that drum.
Potentially. I'm of the opinion that I don't really think it's going to stick. It's certainly not going to stick like Hillary Clinton's emails did in 2016, because Hillary Clinton had decades of mistrust from Americans for a variety of different reasons.
Yeah.
Joe Biden, just by the numbers, if you look at what voters think of him, they're much more inclined to trust him than Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton was a uniquely disliked and mistrusted character in American politics. That's not Joe Biden.
That seems to be something we've heard a bit of when we have this analysis, but this is all pregame analysis. We'll check back for the postgame. Nate Hochman, thanks for joining me tonight. Final Five back after this.